Hello everyone, welcome back to another lesson. And in this lesson we're going to talk about how we can combine reference data with our detections in QRadar. So let's go ahead and create a quick example. Now I want to show you in Use Case Manager there's an option to duplicate and delete rules from the application itself. And we can do that by clicking the pen icon right here. And I'm going to mark the enumeration detection we created and go ahead and duplicate it. And I'm going to call it process created reference data example. And I'm going to click on save. And it's going to start duplicating, and it was done pretty quickly. So you can see now that our new detection is right here. And I'm going to head and edit it. I'll leave it like this. And now I want to show you how we can include reference data in our detection. So there are two ways to do that. And the first one is from the filter itself. We can search reference set, and we can see that in here we have a selection of all of our reference sets. So let's leave the first one selected because this is the example I created. And then in the data entry, I'm going to search for the property I want to filter on. So in our case, it's going to be username, and it can be any property that you want from this list. And then I'm going to do exists in any of. You can also do does not exist in any of, in all of, and does not exist in all of. Then I'm going to hit the plus button, click on add and submit. So in order to make this an exclusion and not an inclusion, I'm going to change it to and not right here. And we can also change the filter itself to does not exist in any of, but it's a matter of preference really. And that's the first method. Now the second way of doing it is from a dedicated test line. If I type in reference set, so I can see all of the available options that I have. We can also work with reference maps and maps of sets, etc. But for our example, we're going to be using the reference set example. So I'm going to go ahead and select username, and you can choose any amount of properties that you want. And then I'm going to search for my allowed usernames, click on add, and click submit. And I'm going to change this to and not. So now basically the detection itself is exactly the same, other than the fact that we're now excluding a list of usernames. So if my username is going to be triggering this offense, it's not going to show up because it's my username, and my username is found on this reference set. So let's change the names of the event right here as well, and click on finish. So now I'm going to send some process created events from my Windows machine to QRadar, and we're going to see how it behaves in the context of excluded usernames. So I'm going to pause the video for a few seconds, and I'll see you guys again when I have some information to work with. Okay guys, welcome back. And I have some data now to work with, and as you can see we don't have any offenses, not surprising. But if I go to log activity, I added the command column here, and we can see that our commands show up as task list and who am I, but there's no offense being created. So the reason for that is because our username is found in the reference set, which we excluded on. And if we go to one of those events, we can see that our detection is not in the list of the custom rules here, only the old detection that we created, right? And the reason is because the username is excluded. So you can create a reference set for any types of property that you want, and you can exclude based on those properties, which is a very dynamic way to work with rules. Now, another fantastic example I want to show you is, let's say, for example, you want to follow certain information in your events. So let's say, for example, every event ID that is being sent to you, you want it to be put in a reference set, or every username or every source IP that you have, you're going to be putting it in a reference set. So let's actually go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and create 3 new reference sets. My IPs, which will have an IP element. My event IDs, which will have numbers. And my usernames, which will have an allnick type. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to head and go to use case manager, and I'll create a new rule for it. And I'm going to say for the first one, we chose IPs. So I'm going to say, I'm going to add a filter here, and I'm going to say that if the source IP equals to any of, right? And I'm going to do 192.168.1.0, which is my local network that I'm working with. If the source IP is equal to any of those, I want it to be added to a reference set so I can follow all the values. And of course, you can do that from the log activity as well by aggregating on source IPs, but just for the example's sake, I'm going to show you how to do that like this method. So I'm going to head and go on next. So the main difference between, let's call it tracking rules and detection rules, is that for tracking rules, you don't want any action, right? You're not doing it to create any offense. Instead, what you want is a response. So we have an option here to add to a reference set. And I'm going to go ahead and add my source IP of the event, any event, source IP. I'm going to add it to the reference set I created, which is my IPs. And now every event is going to have its source IP added to my reference set. So let's go ahead and create this one. And I'm going to do the same for event ID. So let's add a filter and do if event ID does not equal 0, we want to add it to my event ID's reference set. And we can also remove data from a reference set. So I could also choose if I want to remove elements, I would choose just the same properties, but instead of add, I would remove them. So you can also do that. So let's go ahead and enable it, and let's do the same for username. If username is not an A, add the username to my reference set, which is my usernames. So I'm gonna pause here again, give it a few moments, and then I'm gonna show you all of the values that are being added to the reference sets that I created. So I'll see you guys in a few seconds. Hello guys, welcome back. And as we can see, data is starting to populate the reference set we created. So we have our IPs here that are being added as we go. And we can also see that this reference set depends on the rule we created. So they are linked together. And we also have our usernames here. And we're also going to see that dependent here. And it's been dynamically populated. So you can also add data, you can remove data as a response. It's really dynamic. So your imagination is only the limit in this case. And you can probably think about a good amount of detections that can benefit from this functionality. But this is basically it for this topic right here. And I'm going to see you guys in the next video.